Well, good afternoon. It's going to be the easy part for me. First to Diane, Julie, John, Kevin, thank you for giving me the opportunity to say something about my longtime friend and someone who had such an impact on my life. I know how much he loved all of you guys and the grandchildren. There were many weekends and holidays that we were stuck in the Senate waiting on a vote. And we had the opportunity to talk about how we wish that we were at home with our families. Now, none of us have any idea what the protocol was over the last several days when Johnny faced St. Peter. But there's one thing that I know for certain. Standing right beside at St. Peter was Tom Coburn. And Coburn, when his inimitable way, whispered to St. Peter, he said, "This is the guy I've been telling you about. And with him joining our team, we're going to get some good things done." If Johnny had lived 9 more days, he would have had his 77th birthday. I was privileged to be his friend for 59 of those years. Johnny and I entered the University of Georgia in the fall of 1962 and became good friends early on. He was an SA and I was a Sigma Chi, but the Greek system in those days were so small that we had a lot of interaction between fraternities through athletics, parties, etc. As senators, we often introduced each other at various events. And when Johnny always introduced me, he would say, "We dated at the Phi Mu house together, not the same girl." Saxby dated Diane, Julian, and I dated Diane. It was a great time to be a student at the University of Georgia. In fact, I see some of our classmates around here in this congregation that took a 4-year education and strung it out for another 5 years. A couple of them maybe 6 years, but Johnny and I lived the fullest, the life to the fullest in those years. We were both together in the business school and shared an occasional class. Johnny was a great student, and his inclination of politics was early on when he was elected as president of SAE. During our years at UGA, Coach Dooley showed up and revived our football program. College life in those days was really good. Now again, I don't know what St. Peter has in the way of protocols, but I can tell you, next Monday night, Johnny is going to be watching the dogs wear out Alabama. Now, for several years after we graduated, our paths didn't cross very often. I went off to law school and was building a law practice in 200 miles south of Atlanta, and Johnny was building his very successful real estate practice here. And at the same time, he was entering the same entering the political arena. Now, just like some of my many colleagues over here, I lost my first campaign for Congress. and Johnny lost his first campaign for the State House. But that moment, his political career took off like a rocket. He ran again 2 years later, and that election started a string of 7 straight campaign wins from 1976 to 1988 for the State House. He was one of a very few Republicans in the Georgia House where he quickly rose to be the minority leader. In 1990, he ran for governor and lost in a tough campaign to Zell Miller. He returned to the campaign trail 2 years later and was elected to the Georgia State Senate. In 1996, he lost in a primary for the U.S. Senate. But in 1999, he won the race to replace Newt Gingrich for the U.S. House. He then ran successfully for the U.S. Senate in 2004 and was reelected in 2010 and 2016, becoming the first Georgia Republican in history to serve in the United States Senate for 3 terms. In addition, he is the only Georgian to serve in the Georgia House and Senate and the U.S. House and Senate. Wow, what a spectacular career. When Johnny resigned in 2019 from the Senate, his political career had spanned 45 years, 39 of those years in elected office. When you include the 2.5 years he served as chairman of the State Board of Education, appointed by then-Governor Zell Miller, he served our state and our country for more than 41 of those 45 years. His election record was 14 wins and 3 losses. Johnny's good friend, Bobby Cox, would love to have had all of his Braves pitchers with that same record. When you know Johnny, it was easy to see how such a successful, how had he such a political career. He summed it on the floor of the Senate in his farewell speech on December 3rd, 2019, when he said 2 things. 1, all I have out there are friends and future friends. And 2, when he was discussing his voting philosophy, he quoted Mark Twain, who once said, "When confronted with a difficult decision, do what is right. You will surprise a few and amaze the rest." He particularly loved to vote for a bipartisan bill and authored an awful lot of bipartisan legislation. He was very proud to work with Republicans and Democrats on a regular basis. His longtime good friend, former Governor Roy Barnes, has oft said of Johnny that if all Republicans were like Johnny Isakson, I would be a Republican. Now, I enjoyed my years in the House with Johnny, but those 10 years we had together in the United Senate were very special. We talked every day, often 4, 5, 6, 7 times a day, about what was going on in the Senate and what was going on back in Georgia. I saw the real Johnny up close and personal with those regular conversations. We were tested over and over with difficult decisions: immigration, the debt, the TARP program, nominations, and many, many more. As we had our discussions about all of those votes, the conversation always came back to Mark Twain's words, "We got to do what is right." His passing leaves a void in our hearts, in our state, and in our nation. I will close with a verse for one of my favorite Vince Gill songs that sums up my personal feelings on this day as we say goodbye to Johnny. Go rest high on that mountain. Some, your work on earth is done. Go to heaven a-shouting, love for the Father and to the Son. I will miss you, my faithful friend. Amen.